Part 1 of 4. The last summer before everything changed. When I was 12, I thought my Uncle Ray was the weirdest man alive. He didn't own a smartphone. He listened to jazz on vinyl. He still read newspapers, the kind that left your fingers gray. And he had this old metal flashlight he carried around everywhere like it was a sacred object. Someday, he'd say, tapping it twice like a magic wand, "This'll be more useful than any gadget you'll ever own." I'd roll my eyes every time. 12-year-olds don't exactly appreciate cryptic adults or analog tech. But that summer, the summer before my parents split and everything I thought was solid turned soft, I spent a lot of time at his place. My mom said it was to give her and Dad space to figure things out. Uncle Ray said it was because I needed less noise and more dirt under my nails. His house sat on the edge of town, surrounded by tall oaks, with a wraparound porch and an attic that always smelled like dust and memories. At first, I hated being there. He didn't have Wi-Fi, no TV, no air conditioning, and the nearest neighbor was a 10-minute bike ride away. The attic creaked at night. The kitchen clock ticked too loudly, and he made me do things like weed the garden and wash windows, manually, with vinegar and old newspaper. But over time, I started to see the charm. We built a birdhouse together. He taught me how to sharpen a pocket knife and how to tell the age of a tree by its rings. We fixed a squeaky door that had annoyed him for a decade. And every night, he'd bring out that flashlight. "Let's check the perimeter," he'd say with a wink, like we were guarding some great treasure. We'd walk the property, flashlight in hand, as if we were guarding a castle. He'd let me carry it sometimes, showing me how to hold it steady and listen to the dark instead of fearing it. "The dark tells the truth," he said once. "You just gotta stop shouting over it." I didn't get it then. I thought it was one of his weird poet things. But I nodded like I did. Sometimes we'd sit on the porch afterward, sipping root beer and listening to the wind. He told me how, when he was my age, he used to do the same thing with my grandfather, a man I barely remembered. One afternoon, during a heavy summer storm, the power went out. I panicked. It was midday, but the clouds turned the house into a cave. The wind howled, and tree branches tapped against the windows like they were trying to get in. "Relax," Uncle Ray said, completely unfazed. "We've got what we need." He lit a few candles, then handed me the flashlight. I clicked it on and felt the beam slice through the dim like a sword. It was warm in my hand. "Solid. That's yours now," he said. "What? Really?" He nodded. "You've earned it. It's not about the light, kid. It's about knowing how to find your way when you can't see the path." I didn't know how to thank him, so I just said, "Cool," and stared at the light. That night, I slept with it under my pillow, just in case. The power came back an hour later, but something had shifted. I'd started to trust the quiet. Trust him. Trust myself. By the end of that summer, my parents had decided to separate. I went back home. Back to noise. Back to arguments behind closed doors and awkward silences at the dinner table. But I kept the flashlight beside my bed. Every night, I checked the batteries. Every week, I walked the backyard perimeter, just like Uncle Ray taught me. I didn't really understand why. It just felt steady. Like muscle memory. Like hope. One day, a kid at school asked why I carried a flashlight in my backpack. "In case I get lost," I said. He laughed. "Dude, what are you in the Boy Scouts?" But I didn't mind the teasing. Because part of me knew that flashlight was more than a light. It was proof that someone believed I could find my way. Even in the dark. Part 2 of 4. The glow in the basement. High school hit me like a wave. New teachers. New expectations. New gaps between people who once shared everything. Some kids had sports. Others had music. I had insulation. Walls. Books. A hoodie I never took off. And the flashlight. It stayed in my backpack, even though I didn't really need it anymore. I never told anyone, but I'd click it on during fire drills. Just to blink, just to feel it. That sharp, solid beam like a secret handshake between me and the world. When things got rough, and they did, I'd sneak into the basement, sit on the old laundry pile, and shine the light at the ceiling. Like a little rebellion against everything falling apart upstairs. The dark became familiar. Comforting, even. Because in the dark, things were honest. That year, Mom started dating someone new. He was okay. Nice enough. Brought flowers. Smiled a lot. But he wasn't Uncle Ray. Didn't know the value of quiet. He talked too much. Tried too hard. And sometimes, I just wanted silence. Sometimes I'd fake being asleep just to avoid the small talk. Other times, I'd go outside and sit in the shed, flashlight on my lap, pretending I was anywhere else. Ray would call every other Sunday. Never long. Just, "You all right, kid?" "Yeah." "Still got the light?" "Always." "Good. Don't let it go soft." I didn't know flashlights could go soft, but I got what he meant. I felt it when I ignored it for weeks, let the batteries die, forgot it in the corner of my closet. When I finally turned it on again, the light flickered before it steadied. It felt like an apology. He came to one of my football games, once. Stood near the back, under the lights, in that same old canvas jacket. Didn't cheer. Just watched. When we lost, he clapped twice, nodded, and disappeared before I could even find him. He sent me a package that Christmas. No note. Just batteries. 4 packs. All labeled. "For the days you forget how bright you are." Each pack had a date on it. Spread 6 months apart. Like he knew I'd need them. That one made me cry. Sophomore year, we had a lockdown drill that turned out not to be a drill. Some guy tried to get into the school. They caught him in the parking lot. But for 30 minutes, we sat in silence, lights off, huddled under desks. Some kids cried. Some texted. I just reached into my backpack and clicked on the flashlight. No one saw. No one needed to. But in that moment, I felt more prepared than anyone. Because Uncle Ray had trained me. Not for this exactly, but for something like it. For the unexpected dark. And that night, when I got home, I didn't go to my room. I went to the backyard, walked the perimeter, and for the first time in a while, I felt safe and seen. Part 3 of 4, The Quietest Goodbye. College felt like a reset button. New faces, new buildings, new routines. I called home every Sunday, mostly for Mom, but Ray always found his way onto the line. Never for long, just long enough. "You eatin'?" he'd ask. "Yeah." "All right then." One winter, I came home for break and found the garage cleaner than it had ever been. Tools organized. Floors swept. Ray said he was making room for new projects, but something about the way he said it made me uneasy. That's when he started forgetting things. First small stuff, names of neighborhood kids, which drawer held the socket wrenches. Then bigger things, missed appointments, burned toast. I caught him staring at a wall once, flashlight in hand, as if he didn't recognize it. He brushed it off, said he was tired, said everyone forgets. But I knew. I started coming home more often. Skipped spring break. Missed a few classes. Just to be around. Just in case. One evening, I found the flashlight on my pillow again. Same one. Except now, it had a chip on the handle, and the light flickered unless you twisted it just right. I brought it to him. "She's fading." He nodded slowly. "Ain't we all?" I didn't know what to say. The following week, I helped him change the bulb. We sat side by side, him guiding my hands like when I was little. "It's not the light that matters," he said. "It's that you're willing to carry it." That was the last full sentence I remember him saying. He passed in the fall. Quietly. At home. In his sleep. I held the flashlight during the service. Mom spoke. I didn't. I couldn't. But I kept twisting the head of the light, making sure it still worked. It did. Later that night, I went into the garage alone. Everything was exactly where he left it. The coffee mug, the oil rag, the little tin with extra bulbs. I sat down, turned on the light, and let the silence settle. That was the first time I cried, but not the last. In the weeks that followed, I found myself back in the garage more than I was in the house. I think Mom understood. She didn't ask questions. She'd just bring me coffee in his old mug and quietly set it beside me, never saying a word about the grease marks I left on the table or the way I stared at the same wall for hours. I started cataloging his tools, labeling drawers, organizing his notes. He had this little leather notebook filled with sketches, blueprints for projects I'd never heard him mention. Things like a custom go-kart or a water-powered engine. Some were half-baked ideas, others fully realized diagrams. One page had a to-do list. 1. Fix porch light. 2. Find better coffee. 3. Show him how to change a tire. The last one hit me hardest. He had plans. Even near the end, he still thought forward. Still thought of me. I found the first flashlight he ever gave me tucked in the back of a drawer. The casing had a dent, the lens was cracked. I turned it over in my hands like a relic. It didn't work anymore, but I couldn't bring myself to throw it out. I kept it on the workbench like a small monument. One evening, I heard a knock on the garage door. It was Mr. Capel from next door. An older man, sharp but quiet, always had his garden perfectly trimmed. He held out a broken hedge trimmer. "Ray used to fix this every spring," he said. Think you can take a look? I froze. Part of me wanted to say no. I wasn't Ray. I didn't know half of what he knew. But I nodded. Sure, I said, and took it from him. The trimmer was simpler than I expected. I remembered Ray once saying, "It's not about knowing everything. It's about being willing to figure it out." So I tried. It worked. Word spread. A week later, one of the neighborhood kids showed up with a broken skateboard. A single mom brought her leaky toaster. People didn't just bring things, they brought stories. About Ray. About how he helped them quietly, without asking for thanks. I started keeping a logbook, just like his. And on the inside of the back cover, I wrote, "Keep it sharp. Part 4 of 4, Carrying the Light." Graduation came faster than I expected. One minute I was pulling all-nighters and eating stale ramen, and the next I was standing in a gown that didn't quite fit, with a tassel flapping in the spring wind. Mom was somewhere in the crowd, eyes red but smiling. I imagined Ray in the back, arms crossed, quietly proud, probably thinking the whole ceremony was a bit much. After the ceremony, I didn't go to any parties. I walked the edge of campus alone, flashlight in my pocket. Even in daylight, I clicked it on once. Just because. I moved to a new city a month later. Small apartment. Cracked windows. Radiator that sounded like it hated its job. I worked in an office that smelled like old coffee and fake citrus. The job wasn't great, but it was honest. Ray would have respected that. The flashlight lived by my door. Every night before bed, I'd check if it still worked. It always did. I started volunteering on weekends at a local youth center. Just a couple hours, helping with homework or organizing supplies. One of the kids, Jamal, reminded me of myself. Quiet, always watching, hesitant to ask for help. One day, a storm rolled in and knocked the power out. Everyone panicked. Phones died. Lights went black. A few kids started crying. Without thinking, I pulled out the flashlight. Click. I handed it to Jamal. "You're in charge," I said. His eyes went wide. He took it like I was giving him something sacred. And in a way, I was. That moment stuck with me. I kept thinking about Ray, not just what he gave me, but what he left in me. That calm, that steadiness, that readiness. It wasn't the flashlight that mattered. It was the idea of being ready when things go dark. So I bought more flashlights. A whole box of them. And slowly, I started giving them away. To the kid who had to walk home alone after dark. To the guy at work who'd just lost his father. To a woman on the subway who looked like she hadn't slept in days. I didn't explain much. Just said, "This is for the dark. When it comes, and it will, you'll know what to do." Some people looked confused. Some smiled. Some cried. And I kept going. Years passed. I moved again. Fell in love. Fell out. Got better at cooking. Got worse at answering texts. Life kept moving. Loud, messy, beautiful. Through it all, I kept the original flashlight. It lived in a drawer now, battery cover taped, scratches like battle scars. It still worked. Most days, so did I. On what would have been Ray's 70th birthday, I hiked a trail just outside the city. It ended on a ridge overlooking the skyline, trees rustling like soft whispers. I sat down, pulled the flashlight from my bag, and turned it on. Not because I needed it, because I wanted him to know I still carried it. I whispered into the wind. "Still got the light, Ray." And in that quiet, I imagined his voice. "Don't let it go soft." I stayed until stars blinked awake, one by one, like old friends showing up late, but just in time. That night, walking back through the dark woods, I didn't feel afraid. I didn't feel lost. I felt steady, like the beam from a flashlight in your palm. Small, sure enough, like everything Ray ever taught me, echoing with each step.